wanted to know what Saturn is actually like? Well, in today's video, you are going to find out 3 mind-blowing facts about this famously known ringed planet and how it applies to the signs Capricorn and Aquarius. Join me in this series, Astronomy meets Astrology. Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer, and if you have not joined the Cosmic Warriors Club, what are you waiting for? Go to cosmicwarriorsclub.com. I hope to see you there. But before we do dive into today's video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button and click the bell. And if you are interested in any of my services, then you can go to hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find my practical astrology ebooks, guide and merch. All the links will be in the description box down below. I do hope that you find this video to be helpful today. Let's do this. Alright, so just a quick reminder here, Saturn in astrology rules both Capricorn and Aquarius, and so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the parallels between Saturn and these two zodiac signs. The first mind-blowing fact about Saturn is, like I said at the very beginning, Saturn has rings. In fact, it has 7 rings. Wait a minute, 7 rings. Doesn't Ariana Grande have a song called 7 Rings? Let's read some of the lyrics from this song, shall we? Whoever said money can solve your problems must not have had enough money to solve them. Happiness is the same price as red bottoms. What's red bottoms? Well, apparently this is a reference to Christian Louboutin shoes, which start from about $600 for a pair. Though, why is this so important? Well, because Saturn in astrology is tied to questions like, can money solve our problems? And can it really buy happiness? Though, before we do get further into these types of questions, let's explore these 7 rings of Saturn. Saturn's rings make up a very complex and huge structure. The ring system wouldn't fit in the distance between Earth and the Moon. So yeah, very big. And the rings have been labelled from when they were discovered. So if we go outward from Saturn, the rings are labelled D, C, B, A, F, G, and E. I will actually show a quick image here for educational purposes. And the interesting thing about this is there are 12 musical notes, 7 of which are natural. These are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And have you ever heard what Saturn sounds like? I'll insert a few links down below so you can listen. But I find that fascinating that the rings are labelled that way. Though the ring closest to Saturn, the D ring, is very faint. And the ring that we can see from the telescope is the A ring, so the one right in the middle. And the particles in Saturn's rings are composed primarily of water ice. Now, there is a moon Saturn has, and it's called Pan. And this moon orbits the inside of the A ring. Now, this moon was named after Pan, the half-man, half-goat satyr from Greek mythology. Now, Pan was a fertility deity. He was the god of the wild, shepherds, hunters, flocks, rustic music. He was the companion to the nymphs, and he was the protector of sheep and goats. And it is said that Pan had the ability to transfigure people and terrify even the mighty titans with his voice. The wildness of soldiers in battle named Panic was attributed to Pan. This is quite parallel to what Saturn sounds like. So if you really listen to the sounds of Saturn, it's quite terrifying. Okay, Okay, so how does this information relate to the signs Capricorn and Aquarius? Well, what we're going to do first is we're going to think about what Saturn represents in the natal chart. So looking at what Saturn represents in astrology. Saturn is associated with restriction, limitations, boundaries, delays, setbacks, and hardships. Even looking at the very symbol of Saturn, this symbol shows a cross, so looking at Earth, and then a downward facing crescent, which is the personality. Essentially, this symbolizes the self being held down by Earth. This shows that time on Earth is limited and that we are often limited and restricted as humans. Even think about the very rings of Saturn themselves. They show boundaries, they show restrictions. Now, when looking at the sign Capricorn here, this sign rules the likes of status, security, duty, hard work, dedication, resourcefulness, professionalism, and success. And we live in a world where these things are very, very important. Important for our survival, for our livelihood. And with Saturn comes being rewarded. We are rewarded with things like wealth, stability, security, due to our dedication and hard work and so on. But we can also become heavily involved with such things. We can look towards status and success as indicators of our self-worth. And no matter how much we may try to deny it, there seems to be this subconscious measuring stick running in our minds, this part of us that measures people based on their wealth, their career, their success, their status. Do they have a nice car, a nice house, a loving family, a decent career? What is their societal role? And how does their position within society measure up against mine? You could say that Capricorn rules capitalism, but this sign, I think, rules the government and societal structure overall. It rules politics and the public. Though, consider how in the Ariana Grande song, she sings about the red bottoms and how happiness is the same price as them, suggesting money can buy us happiness. Now, I'm not going to be naive here, because I do think money can buy us happiness, because money means security, right? And security means being able to afford things that we want, and also security means having a greater peace of mind. However, I also think we can lose sight of what's important. I think we can take things to an extreme. And we can also base our self-worth on the amount of money we earn or on the types of security we have. I guess you could say that money can buy us happiness up until a certain point. And then by that point, it doesn't. Not to mention, money itself can be super stressful, especially with us experiencing a recession. Inflation is making it difficult for us all. Even having too much money can be a major issue. Having too much money can come with many problems as well. What's that whole song? More money, more problems. That's saying. I can't remember what song that's from or where it's from. But yeah, more money, more problems. Essentially here, Capricorn points toward these types of things. It also rules laws and regulations, which can change. And these changes can either be rewarding or detrimental. Often we have no control or say in the matter either. This sign points toward authority, organizations, and business. Think about a law or a rule that can be set in place. This new law or rule could have the power to redirect your life in a positive or negative way. Though, when looking to the sign of Aquarius, this sign rules groups, alliances, teams, people, revolution, breaking the rules, innovation, society, collective change. This sign is ruled by both Saturn and Uranus. And whilst Uranus is more so tied to things like breaking the rules and rebellion and innovation, the Saturn part of Aquarius is about assessing the rules, assessing structure and boundaries, and seeing how things can be changed. And it's also about being rational and sensible throughout the process. The Saturn part of Aquarius represents the mental and the communicative expression of success, status, authority, and dedication. So questioning these things, really wanting to understand what life is all about, seeing the bigger picture of society's actions, having this idealistic view about your individual purpose and mission. Also, experiencing these existential crises about success, like, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm meant to do with my life? How can I wake these people up and make them aware of how much they're being restricted or controlled? And at the same time, the Saturn side of Aquarius can be so demanding and authoritative. We can have our own agenda, and we can be hypocritical when we tell others to wake up whilst we are doing the very same thing that we're ringing the bells about. The Saturn side of Aquarius can show up as us not really caring about success or status or recognition, like, I'm so above that, or I would rather not participate in the game of life. But perhaps we can be hypocritical. Yeah, we could say, screw the system, but the moment an exciting opportunity presents itself, we're like, yes, 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 yes. I mean, Aquarius often rules fame and recognition as well. Then again, perhaps it's about learning to detach from the labels of success, from the social climbing ladder. Maybe it's about stepping back and truly assessing, is this what I want? Rather than just following the crowd. The Aquarius side of Saturn gets us considering our personal freedom within a particular system or structure. The second mind-blowing fact about Saturn is in Greek mythology, Saturn is associated with god Cronus. Now, Cronus was the god of time. He was the son of Uranus, so looking at the heavens, and the son of Gaia, which was Earth. And with the help of his mother, Gaia, Cronus castrated his father, Uranus, resulting in the separation between heaven and Earth. Now, this is very interesting because it was Uranus and Gaia who would lay together and they created the Titans, one of which was Cronus. But when Cronus castrated his father, this created the separation. Did this separation lead to these limitations and these restrictions? So looking at how we are bounded to Earth, life itself is a timeline by which we are confined by. And thinking about the symbol of Saturn again, it's shaped like a sickle, this farming tool with a semicircle blade. And Cronus was also the god of agriculture. He was the god of harvest. He had a daughter named Demeter, aka Ceres, who was the goddess of farming and agriculture. But then also consider the Grim Reaper, who carries a scythe. I could be pronouncing that incorrectly. But still, this is also a harvesting tool with a much longer handle and a different shaped blade. The Grim Reaper is an image of death. The Grim Reaper reaps the souls of sinners, and the thing about Cronus is he would devour his offspring. He did this because he learned from his parents that he was destined to be overthrown by his own children, just as he overthrew his father. You see, long ago, the ancients also used to consider Saturn as the furthest planet from the sun. Keep in mind, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were not discovered until after the 1700s with the help of a telescope, which also wasn't invented until modern day. Quick side note here as well, this makes me think about how traditional astrology doesn't use Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto, and Saturn itself represents tradition. Anyway, the sun represented the good. It represented light, so the light in the world. The sun in our natal chart is often tied to our vitality, liveliness, and feeling good. So Saturn being the furthest from the sun meant it was dark, okay? They looked at that as it's evil, it's bad, it's a type of hell. Though I think in general, what this is suggesting is Saturn is associated with death. Because our time on Earth is limited because we all die at some point. We are all mortal. Though interestingly, it was Cronus and Rhea being the second largest moon of Saturn, They had many children, one of which was Zeus, aka Jupiter. And Jupiter points toward immortality, the higher self, higher consciousness. But does this mean that Saturn in our charts is bad or negative or evil? Well, all planets can show up in negative or positive ways. It also depends on the context and the way you're experiencing things. But Saturn can indicate the aging process. The fact that we all get older, it's about maturity, growth, responsibility, learning lessons, gaining wisdom. But it can also point toward more sinister things like control, power, greed, ruthlessness, desperation. After all, Cronus did devour his own children, so he could remain in power. But I think the wisdom lies in understanding and accepting that we all have our time, our peak. Keeping in mind that Saturn in the chart points toward our mountain of success. But yes, there can come a time when we peak, we gain success, but there also comes a time when we come down from the mountain and we share our knowledge, we share our wisdom with others. We accept that maybe it's somebody else's turn to embark on their journey of success. Perhaps some of us don't get to reach our mountain of success due to unseen and unexpected circumstances, and no amount of hard work can control these bigger themes at play. And if this happens, we can punish ourselves. We can be really hard on ourselves, see ourselves as failures, or we might learn along the way that something isn't working. We need to change something. We need to try a different approach. Yet we still have lessons to gain, wisdom to pass on. You know, when I think about Saturn, I always go back to the Lord of the Rings, because as soon as you mention greed or power, I go to that story in my mind. So this idea of the ring polluting the minds of anyone who wears it, they become obsessed with power, they want to rule it all. This points toward this manifestation of Saturn that becomes caught up in the material gain, determined to have status and to be successful, and being ruthless and cruel and cold throughout the process. But this can also show us that we don't have to get into these things. I mean, Frodo sailed toward a new chapter at the end of the trilogy. He leaves Middle-earth. And then Sam returned to the Shire, where he was content and happy. I think this story highlights the importance of not allowing status and success to pollute our minds, to control us, and to keep us from what is truly meaningful in our lives. And I also think Saturn teaches us about the inevitable, in that we all age, we all get old, we all get to a point where our body starts to shut down. It doesn't work the same way it used to, and we all die, and everyone around us eventually will too. Yet in society, we want to slow down the aging process as much as possible. Think of things like Botox, filler, excessive exercise, dieting disguised as healthy eating. And with the same token, how often we can speed up the aging process due to poor eating habits, lack of exercise. Aging seems to be this super icky word that nobody particularly enjoys. And the age you are is a restriction, right? It's a limitation which cannot be changed. I mean, if you're 20, you can never say you're 30. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be true. And I also can't help but think that a part of the reason for why age is such a big deal is because we make it a big deal. It's like, ooh, you're 30 now, no kids, no house, what are you gonna do? Or, ooh, you're only 16, what do you know? You're still a child. And sure, yes, age matters, especially when it comes to maturity and our biology. But I think that as humans, we have a hard time trying to comprehend the truth of dying. And it's our fear of dying which perpetuates these aging messages, these success messages, these Status messages. Now, you could say that what I've been talking about here is an Aquarius expression of Saturn. I do have the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn all in this sign. And I think about these types of concepts and these ideas quite a bit. Though looking at Capricorn, Capricorn in your natal chart points toward your mountain of success. The symbol of Capricorn is the half goat, half fish. The goat indicates consciousness, reason, rationale, and the fish indicates the unconscious, intuition, and wisdom. Therefore, Capricorn in your chart looks at both of these parts. This sign is tied to integrity, commitment, and duty, but it's also tied to empathy, spirituality, and deep insight. And these parts show up because of what we experience physically. And I also think the fish side of Capricorn asks the question of what happens after we die, what lies beyond. But also, Saturn isn't just about death, okay? It's about birth, it's about life, it's about passing things on, tradition, legacy. What comes into existence? It's tied to the creation of the material world. And the third mind-blowing fact about Saturn is that there is a hexagon on the north pole of it. Now, this hexagon is created because of a deep thermal convection. This happens when heat travels from one place to another within the planet, leaving behind jet streams. Now, the thing about the hexagon is it's a six-pointed shape. 6 is the number of creation and perfection. It symbolizes divine power, majesty, and wisdom. And the hexagon can be made into a cube that has 6 faces. Now, there's something called the black cube of Saturn, and I've noticed a few people talking about this cube and its connections to Satan worship. So making these parallels between Saturn and Satan, even think about the devil card in the tarot. It's often associated with Capricorn. Even Liz Green referred to Saturn as the old devil in her book. But what exactly does this suggest? What does this mean? Well, firstly, remember the ancients saw Saturn as this hellish place, so to speak. It was this dark and evil planet. Even in the natal chart, Saturn points towards something dark and buried within us. It can point toward guilt, shame, and fear. It indicates enslavement, repression, being chained to something, being tied to something, which is kind of interesting because Katy Perry has a song called Chained to the Rhythm. So this thought of enslavement to work, to our duties, to our responsibilities, possibly to the government, all whilst those on top get most of the wealth. But you see, Saturn also looks at how addicted we can become. So looking at our version of wealth and success, you don't have to be at the top of the ranks within society to experience obsession, greed, control, and feeling tied to something, chained to something. Even when you look at the cube, it's shaped like a box, right? So I suppose you could say it's sort of shaped like you're being imprisoned, like a prison cell. Now, at the same time, Saturn is about structure. So following the rules, it's about building, being resourceful. It's about being patient and hardworking and dedicated. Of course, thinking about being rewarded as well for our dedication. It's about being realistic, pragmatic, and practical. So we do also mature when it comes to Saturn, Capricorn, and Aquarius. So still, if we were to look at the Devil Tarot card, there is a strong focus on the material, the physical, but in this addictive way. However, it's also about being set free, coming undone, walking away from a super negative or limiting situation. We can get caught up in status, appearance, and we may also be fearful of things that we cannot control. Our view can be narrow and we may be in the dark about something. These things that I talk about are all connected to Saturn. Capricorn in our charts shows us how we can believe in the worst, okay? We can become negative, super pessimistic. It can indicate like this really hopeless, helpless situation, but also a situation that we can work through. We might unchain ourselves from the disparity. We can also lack hope and faith when it comes to Capricorn, but we can show determination, or we can find another way, another path, provided we are not narrow-minded. Now, on the other hand, Capricorn also points toward being sensible, cautious, and disciplined. This sign is largely associated with integrity, self-respect, and being orderly. And Aquarius in our charts shows us how we can set ourselves free from the shackles of restriction and fear and so on. Aquarius points toward hope, independence, freedom, and thinking outside of the box. How interesting when I talk about this cube being like a prison, because the Aquarius side of Saturn shows us that we can figure out a way to set ourselves free from that prison. Then again, perhaps Aquarius also points toward the prison within our minds, how the mind can be a prison. We can get caught up in these mental loops, overthinking to an extreme, thinking negatively about ourselves, or struggling to shift certain thoughts. The Aquarius side of Saturn shows us how we can get stuck in our minds. Let's even consider the 10th and 11th houses. So when looking to the 10th house, the house ruled by Saturn, this house shows the area of life where we are ambitious. It looks at our accomplishments and our achievements. Our reputation and social status can also be found here. It's about being patient, and also it's about being gradual, so moving slowly, being gradual. Though we often do not see the full effects of this house until later on in life. And this brings me to rewards tied to Capricorn and Saturn. It shows us that we reap what we sow. Saturn is actually tied to karma. So if we work hard on a project over a long period of time, it might not gain us anything in the short run, but it may very well gain us rewards later on. We consider the long haul. It's about planning for the future. Then again, maybe we do not get rewarded in the ways in which we expect. Maybe a certain project doesn't actually pick up in the end because we didn't plan well, we didn't structure it well. Still, within society, we like instant gratification, okay? And so because of this, these things that I talk about can be challenging. Though following on from this point, we typically want to be recognized within our 10th house, recognized for our successes, for our accomplishments. But on the other hand, do be aware of being obsessive, addictive, or chained to these very things. Think of when we might base our identity upon our achievements, for example. And then looking to the 11th house, the house ruled by Aquarius, well, this house shows the area of life where we connect with something bigger than ourselves. This could be a movement, a community, a cause, a group, a charity, an organization, even an ideology. Our wishes and our hopes and our aims for society are shown here. So the type of society we wish to see within the world, okay? Our utopia. However, we might also go about these things in ruthless, cold ways. Or we might become really wrapped up in an ideology or a group mission, and then we're blinded to other views, other opinions. We become narrow-minded. And this house is also tied to things like rebellion, protests, petitions, and revolutions, etc. So looking at collective change and the role you play. You might decide to participate in a rally or a protest, for example. It's connected to the future. And similar to the 10th house, you might not experience the full effects of this house until later on in life. And whilst this house points toward structures within society, it also points toward breaking away from certain structures. So looking at non-conforming ideas or challenging the status quo. Essentially, the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius show up in your chart as manifestations of your limitations, delays, karma, rewards, and your future self. They are tied to how you mature and become an adult. But at the same time, it's about coming to terms with matters related to wealth, security, status, and purpose. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video talking about the 3 mind-blowing facts about Saturn and how it applies to the signs Capricorn and Aquarius. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video to be helpful today. Did you learn something new? Did your perspective change? Do you have any fun facts to share with me? All references I used today will be in the description box down below. Make sure to check them out and let me know your thoughts and your opinions on today's video. But with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button and also give this video a like if you did like it today. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!